They call me a visionary, a trailblazer, a woman who has it all. My face appears on the covers of business magazines that young girls keep on their nightstands for inspiration. But every single time I see my own smile in those glossy photos, I feel a cold knot forming in my stomach, because I know the truth behind that confident smile. I didn't blaze any trail on my own. I stole the map from the only person who ever truly believed in me and supported my dreams. My name is Veronica Sterling, and I am the CEO of a multi-million-dollar beauty technology company called Radiance Labs. But I'm also a ghost, a hollow shell pretending to be something I'm not. I spent 10 years pretending I was the brilliant mind behind our revolutionary products, while my best friend, Autumn, was actually the one doing the real chemistry work, staying up for endless late nights in the lab, and putting her soul into creating formulas that actually worked. I didn't just take her patent rights when the opportunity came. I took her entire identity as the creator and innovator. And now that the world is finally asking me technical questions I cannot possibly answer, I'm realizing something terrible. I didn't win anything meaningful. I just bought myself a very expensive, very lonely cage made of lies that I have to maintain every single day of my life. Autumn was always the quiet one between us. I was the person who knew how to talk smoothly to wealthy investors, how to dress perfectly for important meetings, and how to make powerful people believe in a dream they couldn't quite see yet. We met in college, became instant best friends, and started our company together right after graduation. We were supposed to be a team, equal partners working toward the same goal. Or at least that's what I told Autumn every single day, while I was secretly planning something very different. I saw her trust in me as weakness rather than the precious gift it actually was. Our beauty technology company started small, just the two of us working out of Autumn's garage apartment. She handled all the science, developing unique formulas that combined natural ingredients with cutting-edge chemistry. I handled the business side, creating presentations, meeting with potential investors, building our brand image. For the first 3 years, we were genuinely happy. We worked hard, struggled together, celebrated small victories together. I actually loved what we were building as partners. But then something shifted inside me when I started seeing how much attention and praise successful female CEOs were getting in the media. I wanted that spotlight for myself alone. The massive buyout offer came in our 4th year of business. A major cosmetics corporation wanted to acquire Radiance Labs for $12 million, an amount that seemed impossible to us at the time. But the investors made one thing very clear during our negotiations. They wanted a single strong leader, one clear face for the brand, one person making all final decisions. They didn't want a partnership structure or co-CEOs. They said it confused the market and made decision-making too slow. I saw those dollar signs, and I saw the fame that would come with being the sole founder. And I made a choice that I knew was wrong even as I was making it. I used the legal documents Autumn hadn't bothered to read carefully because she trusted me completely, like a sister. She'd always hated paperwork and legal language, so she let me handle all of that while she focused on the chemistry she loved. I'd had our lawyer insert clauses that gave me the power to restructure the company ownership under certain conditions. When the buyout offer came, I triggered those clauses. I went to the board of advisors we'd assembled and told them carefully crafted lies. I said Autumn was becoming unstable and difficult to work with. I said she was holding the company back with her perfectionism. I framed the buyout as something that required streamlined leadership. The board believed every word I said because I'd spent years building credibility with them while Autumn stayed in the lab. They voted to restructure the company with me as sole CEO and Autumn as a paid consultant with no ownership stake. The buyout went through with my name alone on the paperwork. I remember the day security came to collect Autumn's badge and office keys. She looked at me across the room, not with anger or hatred, but with pure heartbroken confusion. Her eyes asked a question she couldn't speak out loud. How could you do this to me? I didn't look back at her. I couldn't. I had a 30th floor corner office to move into and a new life to start building. For 3 years after the betrayal, I played the part of successful CEO perfectly. I gave TED Talks about female entrepreneurship and breaking glass ceilings. I won awards for being a woman in tech, for innovation, for leadership. I married a man named Preston who loved my power and status more than he loved me as a person. I hosted expensive parties for people who only liked me because of my net worth and connections. From the outside, I had everything anyone could want. But inside, I was rotting. I was becoming someone I didn't recognize, someone I would have hated if I'd met her before all this started. The problem with building a brand on lies is that lies require constant maintenance and protection. Autumn had been the one who truly understood the molecular stability of our products, the chemistry that made them work. I was just the person who picked attractive packaging and wrote marketing copy. I became genuinely terrified of my own research lab. I stopped going down there because I didn't understand the technical language the scientists spoke. When they asked me questions about formulas or ingredients, I made excuses or delegated to someone else. I lived in constant fear that someone would realize I didn't actually know what I was doing. That fear made me paranoid and cruel. I started firing any woman who reminded me even slightly of Autumn, anyone who seemed too smart or too passionate about the actual science. I told myself I was removing potential threats, but really I was just trying to silence my own guilt. I isolated myself until the only people left in my life were employees I paid to be there or social climbers who wanted to use my connections. My husband Preston was never home, always traveling for his own business. My parents had stopped calling after I missed too many family events. I had everything I thought I wanted, and I'd never felt more alone. The natural karma didn't arrive through a lawsuit or public exposure like you might expect. It came from the formula itself, from the science I'd never bothered to truly understand. Our flagship product, the one generating millions in revenue, started having problems. Customers were reporting that the cream was changing color in the container, developing a strange smell. Separating into layers. Our scientists ran tests and discovered the formula was oxidizing much faster than it should, breaking down and becoming potentially unsafe. This was exactly the flaw Autumn had warned me about years ago in a private research notebook that I'd carelessly lost or thrown away. I sat in an emergency board meeting with 15 panicked executives, all of them looking at me for answers and solutions. The head of research and development asked me technical questions about stabilizing agents and pH levels. I had absolutely no idea what he was talking about. I sat there in my $4,000 designer suit, supposed genius CEO, and I had nothing to offer. No solutions, no insights, no leadership. Just fear and the crushing realization that the empire I'd stolen was about to collapse, and I didn't even know which chemicals to mix together to save it. I was a complete fraud, and everyone in that room was starting to see it. The board gave me 2 weeks to fix the formula problem, or they'd have to do a massive product recall that would destroy our reputation and stock price. I went home that night and did something I'd avoided for 3 years. I searched for Autumn online, trying to find out where she was and what she was doing. I expected to find her struggling, maybe working a regular job somewhere, maybe still bitter and angry about what I'd done to her. Instead, I found her social media pages showing a completely different life than I'd imagined. She looked happy, actually genuinely happy in a way I couldn't remember ever seeing her before. Autumn had moved to a small, quiet suburb about an hour outside the city. According to her posts, she was teaching chemistry at a community college and volunteering with local environmental groups. Her photos showed her gardening, hiking, spending time with friends who looked like real friends rather than business contacts. She'd started a small consulting business, helping local organic skincare companies develop natural formulas. Nothing glamorous or headline-making, but something real and meaningful. She looked healthier than I remembered, more relaxed, more herself. And I realized with a sick feeling that she'd moved on and built a better life without me while I was drowning in the success I'd stolen from her. I knew going to see Autumn was probably a terrible idea, but I was desperate and running out of options. I drove to her address on a Saturday morning, my hands shaking on the steering wheel of my luxury car. I found her house easily, a small cottage with a beautiful garden in the front yard, but Autumn wasn't inside. I found her at a community garden 2 blocks away, working in a plot surrounded by other volunteers. She was laughing with a group of women, her hands covered in dirt, wearing old jeans and a simple t-shirt. She looked more radiant and alive than I had ever seen her, even in our early days of friendship. I got out of my car slowly, suddenly very aware of how out of place I looked in my designer clothes and expensive jewelry. I walked toward the garden gate, my heels sinking into the soft ground. Autumn saw me before I reached her. Her smile faded and was replaced by a careful, neutral expression. She said something to her friends and walked over to meet me at the gate. We stood there looking at each other for a long moment. I saw no anger in her eyes, but I also saw no warmth or welcome. Just a kind of quiet sadness, mixed with something that looked like pity. "Autumn," I said, and my voice came out shaky and uncertain. "I need to talk to you. It's important. It's about the formula." She didn't invite me into the garden or suggest we go somewhere private. She just stood there waiting for me to continue. "The flagship product is failing," I continued, the words tumbling out. "It's oxidizing and breaking down. The board is demanding answers and I don't have any. You warned me about this years ago, but I didn't listen. I'll give you 10% of the company if you come back and fix it. 20%, whatever you want. Just please come back and save what we built together." Autumn looked at my designer handbag, my perfectly styled hair, my trembling hands clutching my car keys like a lifeline. She didn't look jealous of any of it. She looked relieved, like she'd dodged a bullet by getting away from me and that world. "We didn't build it together, Veronica," she said quietly. "I built it and you took it. There's a difference." I opened my mouth to argue, to make excuses, but she held up her dirt-stained hand to stop me. "I used to cry every single night for months because I missed our friendship so much," she continued. "But then I realized something important. I didn't actually miss you. I missed the person I thought you were, the friend I believed in who didn't really exist." Her words hit me harder than any angry accusation could have. "You can keep the company," Autumn said, her voice calm and final. "Let it fail. Let it all come crashing down. It was never yours to begin with, and you know it. You stole my work, my ideas, my trust, but I'm not going to save you from the consequences of your choices." I tried to speak, but no words came out. "I don't have a corner office anymore," she continued. "I don't have my face on magazine covers. But I have something you'll never have, Veronica. I have a clear conscience. I can sleep at night. I have real friends who like me for who I am, not what I can do for them. Can you say the same?" I stood there unable to answer her question because we both knew the truth. I had nothing real in my life. Everything was built on lies and theft and betrayal. "I forgave you a long time ago," Autumn said, and somehow that felt worse than if she'd screamed at me or called me names. "Not for your sake, but for mine. I had to let go of the anger so it wouldn't poison my new life. But forgiveness doesn't mean I'm going to rescue you from the mess you created. You made your choices. Now you get to live with them. Goodbye, Veronica." She walked back to her friends in the garden, and I stood there watching her laugh at something someone said, completely unbothered by my presence. I drove home in a daze, Autumn's words echoing in my head. The product recall was scheduled for Monday morning, just 2 days away. The board had decided it was the only option to protect the company from lawsuits. Our stock price would crash. Our reputation would be destroyed. And everyone would start asking questions about who was really responsible, who actually created the formulas, where the real genius behind Radiance Labs had gone. The lies I'd built my entire life on were about to be exposed. My husband Preston had already moved out of our penthouse the week before, claiming he needed space, but really just abandoning a sinking ship. My so-called friends stopped inviting me to events and stopped tagging me in their social media posts. They could sense the failure coming and wanted to distance themselves before it touched them. The women I'd mentored and given advice to about success stopped returning my calls. I realized that every single relationship in my life had been transactional, based on what I could offer rather than who I actually was. I'd traded authenticity for image, real friendship for networking contacts, and my soul for a title. And now that the title was slipping away, I had nothing left. I sat alone in my expensive apartment, surrounded by awards and magazine covers featuring my face, and I felt completely empty. The board meeting on Monday was brutal. They announced the product recall, the investigation into formula development, and their decision to bring in an outside CEO to stabilize the company. I was being removed from my position effective immediately, though they phrased it as stepping down to focus on new opportunities. The investors who'd pushed for single leadership 3 years ago were now the ones pushing me out. The The empire I'd stolen was crumbling, and I was being buried in the rubble. I cleaned out my corner office that same day, packing awards and photos into boxes while former employees walked past without making eye contact. The media coverage was worse than I'd imagined. Investigative journalists started digging into the company's history and discovered Autumn's name on the original patents and early documents. They tracked her down, and she gave one simple interview where she told the truth calmly and without drama. She didn't attack me personally or demand anything. She just explained that she'd been the lead chemist and co-founder until a restructuring pushed her out. The public connected the dots quickly. Social media exploded with people calling me a fraud, a thief, a fake feminist who'd stepped on another woman to get ahead. Everything I'd built my identity on was revealed as a lie. It's been 6 months since everything fell apart. I'm no longer the woman of the year or a trailblazer or anyone's inspiration. I'm just Veronica, living in a small apartment I can actually afford, working as a marketing consultant for companies that don't know my history. I have no real friends, no partner, no awards on my walls. But I have something I haven't had in years: honesty about who I am. The karma of betrayal isn't that you get caught publicly or sued or punished by others. The real karma is that you get exactly what you wanted, only to discover it's the very thing destroying you from the inside. I stepped on my best friend to climb to the top, and I learned the hardest lesson of all. It's a long, long fall when there's no one left to catch you, and you have to live with yourself at the bottom. I can't undo what I did to Autumn, but I can make sure I never betray anyone like that again. That's the only redemption available to someone like me. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channels. You can also tell us what you think in the comments.